So today it is a battle of the big boy polymers from CZ. Not really a battle, but you know, I'm going to try to do a comparison between them. I was lucky enough to pick up a P-09 a couple months ago now, and I wanted to run some rounds through it before I did a comparison, just to make sure I had all the quirks of the gun and how I like to shoot it worked out, and to make sure I gave it a fair comparison with the SP-01 Phantom, which I've had for a while. And I was able to put around 400 rounds through it, and I think I have a pretty good feel for the gun. And it's very similar to the P-07 I've had for a while, so it made it a little easier. These guns are both cleared. The magazines are in there, but I'm going to save us some time by showing that. So we're not going to do that. So let's start with the SP-01 Phantom. I actually have two Phantoms. I got my first one, I want to say back in 2012, and I've done a lot of work to it. I put a lot of Cajun Gunworks parts in it, and I don't have that on the table. The one I have on the table is basically a brand new gun. I may have put 100 rounds through it. I really just shoot my other one, but I wanted to make it a fair comparison on pretty much a stock gun. And I haven't done anything to the P-09, so I thought this was a more fair comparison. And before anybody asks, the reason I have two SP-01 Phantoms is because I love the first one that much. And when they discontinued the gun in 2013, I was able to pick one up because I wanted to have a spare just in case I ever, down the line, was unable to repair the first one I had. Now, I don't think that's a possibility. CZ is great with parts and customer service, but just in case, I bought another one. So the SP-01 Phantom is really the polymer version of their standard SP-01, which they still offer. And the only real big difference between the SP-01 Tactical and the SP-01 Standard is that it uses a polymer frame. It has the same capacity as a standard SP-01, so it's 18+1. Now, on my older SP-01 Phantom, the magazines actually hold 19. They're marked 18. These are as well. And I haven't tried these, so I don't know. These may hold 19 as well, but I haven't really tried. It comes stock with a decocker that is single-sided only. Very traditional ring hammer, just like you see on the P-01s, the SP-01s. Very traditional sights on here as well. 3-dot with that luminescence that CZ is known for. They aren't true night sights, but they do glow. Very traditional slide. And it's pretty much exactly the same as the SP-01s. For those guys that have the SP-01, it's very similar. Very similar curve style CZ trigger. You have checkering on the front and the back strap. And you have this checkering, or not checkering, but this texture on the sides of the grips, which does a great job. It's a beautiful gun. That's the reason I like it, is it's very classic CZ styling. And the upswept beaver tail is perfect. You get a really high purchase on the gun. Makes it very easy to control, even with the lightweight polymer on it. Now, this only comes with two back straps. This is the one that comes on it, and it also comes with a larger one. I prefer this. It fits my hand perfectly. And you have that CZ hump on there, which makes it feel great in the hand. Just an easy gun to shoot. Now, you can see it is a very large gun. That's my hand, average size hands, and it does stick off of it quite a bit. Now let's go ahead and look at the trigger on this. The double action, let's go ahead and go from a full uncocked position. Double action, you have a little bit of play in the trigger. It's pretty smooth, then it breaks. Not a bad trigger at all. See that again? A little bit of play in the trigger. Smooth, and then it breaks. It's not a bad trigger. It'll wear in. My other one did. I did replace some parts in the trigger on my other one, but it's not terrible out of the box. It's not excellent either. The single action is where this gun really shines. It's a great single action gun. So you're gonna have a little bit of play here, a little bit of take up, then it breaks. Awesome single action trigger. It's excellent. So the gun is excellent out of the box, but the Cajun Gunworks parts actually make it a lot better. And the trigger will get better over time, but it can use a little bit of work. So let's go to the P-09. Now, I haven't had this for long, but you can see my other video on the P-07. Actually, I made a couple videos now, and I really like the gun. And so I thought, well, might as well get the full size and see how it compares to my Phantoms. And I am very impressed with this gun. Very similar in size to the SP-01 Phantom. It's actually almost exactly the same weight. So the Phantom comes in at 28.8 ounces. The P-09 weighs just a little heavier at 29.6 ounces. The overall length is exactly the same. They're both 8.1 inches in overall length. The height is almost exactly the same, 5.79 on the P-09 versus 5.8 on the SP-01 Phantom. The width, the Phantom's actually a little wider. It doesn't look like it to me. When you look at it, the P-09 actually looks wider, but supposedly the SP-01 Phantom is 1.5 inches versus 1.46 inches on the P-09. It may just be a trick of the eye, I'm not sure. Barrel length. So the P-09 actually has a 4.53 inch barrel versus a 4.7 inch barrel on the SP-01 Phantom. So you're getting a little bit more on barrel length. So the P-09 is really just a bigger P-07. Same slide cuts. So you got that tapering of the slide versus the SP-01 Phantom, which uses a very traditional CZ type slide where it doesn't have those cuts or tapering. I will say the P-09 is much easier to rack the slide on. And a lot of people complain about that on CZs, is you don't have much real estate to grab onto when you want to cock it or slingshot it. And the P-09 makes it a little bit easier because you have a lot more length here versus the SP-01 Phantom. Makes it a little easier. Now you can also see it uses a very different style barrel. So look here on the SP-01 Phantom, very different. You also don't have this texture up here on top of the slide, and the sights are very different. I actually really prefer this P-09 for the sights. You can see how they go all the way to the rear of the slide, so you're actually getting a little bit more on your sight radius. Same 3-dot system, and they do glow with the luminescence as well. Really like the sights on this. Very low profile, and you get that full length of the slide for your sight radius. Another thing that's a little different is you get ambi, decocker, or safety. Just like the P-07, you can change out the decocker for the safety because it uses that Omega trigger system versus the SP-01 Phantom, which you're stuck with the decocker and it's single-sided only. The P-09 also gets a boost when it comes to mag capacity. So your mag on the P-09 is 19 rounds, and it's even marked for 19 rounds. Now I did say you can get 19 rounds in most of the SP-01 Phantom mags, but you are getting it in kind of a smaller package, and you can see that when I insert it, it doesn't really stick out the bottom at all, versus like it does on the SP-01 Phantom. So it's a little more, or has a little more width in the magazine, but you don't really feel it in the grip. It also comes with 2 extra back straps. These are checkered, front and back, so it probably will lend itself to other, basically any size hand, versus the SP-01 Phantom where you only get 2. Now, this grip, in my opinion, does not feel as good as the SP-01 Phantom. For some reason, for me, it doesn't feel as ergonomic. And I think that's because it really lacks that bump right here versus the SP-01 Phantom. But it's not bad. It's really not bad at all, and I really like it. It's just not quite as good ergonomically as the SP-01 Phantom. Let's look at the trigger on this. Double action. Well, let's go ahead and take it all the way down. Double action. You have a little bit of play. Smooth. Then it breaks. See it again. Breaks. The single action. You have that take up. Awesome, awesome single action. They're very comparable as far as triggers. The double action is a little long. It's a little heavy. And the single action is very light and it's very crisp. So they're very similar as far as triggers go on these. Sizes are almost identical. Some other things I like about the P-09, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is this texturing right here to keep your finger off the trigger. Awesome. And the SP-01 unfortunately doesn't have that. But it just makes it easy when you want to. You got that place of reference on the P-09 versus the SP-01 Phantom. Now, my thoughts on these two guns. Even though the SP-01 Phantom is no longer available from CZ, you can still find it in the private market. Unfortunately, the prices have gone up a little bit on them just because they aren't produced anymore and they're pretty desirable. The MSRP originally on the Phantom was $681. Now, I bought both of my Phantoms for under $600. I want to say I paid around $575 for both of them. It was somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly. The P-09 MSRP is $530. And I bought this one for around $450. And that was a pretty darn good deal. So, is the SP-01 Phantom worth an extra $100, $125 over the P-09? The answer is no. Let me just tell you that. The answer is no. And I think for what you get on the P-09, CZ has done a great job. They are offering a gun that has similar features and even some enhancements over the SP-01 for a much better value. And CZ has really hit the nail on the head or the ball out of the park with the P-09 and the P-07. They're just an excellent value in handguns, and they do everything that this P-09 does, everything this SP-01 Phantom does, but just a little bit cheaper. So I'm just sad I didn't pick up the P-09 earlier because it's just an excellent firearm. They both shoot extremely well. They both feel great in the hand. They both have high capacity. You're getting at least 19 rounds, if not 20 rounds of 9mm in both guns. And going to caliber specific, you can get the P-09 in 40 versus the SP-01 Phantom was only made for a few years and they only made it in 9mm. So if you're a 40 guy, P-09's your only answer. It's not this SP-01 Phantom. Now, am I saying the SP-01 Phantom isn't worth the money? Not at all. It's an excellent value. If you can find an SP-01 Phantom for anything less than $650, I would say buy it. It's only going to go up in value from here, and they're just excellent firearms. And you really can't go wrong with either. But just based on the market these days, the P-09 gets the nod from me, and you cannot go wrong with either of these guns. But the P-09 for me is just the best value in today's market for CZ polymer guns. Thanks as always for watching, guys. I hope that helps some folks out there who are looking at both these guns or who had interest in how they compare to each other. And I hope this helps. Thanks as always.